Life Speak podcast sponsored by Chafin Real Estate Services. Looking to make your next move? You're in the right place. Welcome to Life Speaks, the podcast that dives deep into real stories, big ideas, and life-changing insights. Ready to find your dream home or maximize your rental income? Visit chafinrealestate.com or call 775-575-5000 today.
Hi, my name is Leanne Chaffin, and I am the host of Life Speaks podcast. Very grateful that you joined us today, and today we are talking with Halie Meiners. She is the director of Scarlet Hope here in Reno, Nevada, and Scarlet Hope is all over the nation. So I'm just going to say a little intro. Halie grew up here in Reno and Sparks and has been married to her husband, Eric, for 5 years. They have a 2.5-year-old son named Emmett, who is their main hobby. Halie graduated from Grand Canyon University in 2021 with a bachelor's degree in business management. She is passionate about leading worship and believes that she is called to go into dark places to share the light and love of the only one who is able to redeem, restore, and rescue. Halie started working with the youth who were commercially sexually exploited back in 2019. She knew these types of issues were in her city for about 10 years and was finally given the opportunity to do something about it. During that time, she realized that she has her calling to advocate and love those who have been given no other choice, who are ignored by society, and who have experienced what modern-day slavery is. God is the one who led Halie to Scarlet Hope, and she couldn't be more honored and excited to be part of this Jesus movement that has already taken place. She can't wait to do her part for the glory of God alone, for no one else is like the Lord, and no one else can save us. Exodus 15:11. I want to thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I came across that. Oh my gosh, that's like the perfect thing to say, because really it says who you are and what you've gone through. So as kind of give me a history of who you are and really what, piqued your interest.
Yeah.
In this.
In this field, is that what you mean?
Well, just in life, in your calling.
Yeah, I mean,
you're a beautiful worship leader. I've already experienced that.
Thanks. What's really helpful is being born. I was raised in a Christian home, and so I think when your foundation is laid to follow Christ, you can't totally run from that. We can try. Lots of people do, and that doesn't mean that that's everybody's story. But for me, I was raised by very strong believers who are still championing me on so much every single day to follow Christ and to be like Jesus. But it hasn't been easy, society this day and age, it's making it even harder sometimes, but then also easier in the sense of I got nothing else. That's all I got to offer. I grew up in the church, and then I went to Summit for youth group here in Sparks, and and then as an adult, I started going to Living Stones when I moved back from college, and so it's been really amazing, because when I have had my times in my life where I've not fully walked away from my faith, but really wrestled and spent time kind of living my life differently, when the Father holds you, he holds you. And so I was there was nothing I could do but be pulled back in. I
love it. He's
so irresistible, and you can't, once you've experienced that, you're never the same. And so, my faith journey has been very, I used to say, I have a boring testimony, and I just think that that's a life in the pit of hell. Nobody has a boring testimony, because you were once dead, and then you're not. And that's really important to remember, my friend said that to me once, and I was that's such good news. It doesn't matter the details of how you got to it. You were not alive, and he's made you alive.
That's true. You were blind, but now you can see.
Exactly. Yeah, I was living like a blind person, right? So
yeah, and it really is like a blind person, because you're just trying to make your way in this world, and if you don't have the light, how can you make it in the darkness?
Right. It's so true.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was thinking about that type of a testimony. You know, you say it's boring, but how blessed you are to have been raised in a Christian home. You know, a lot of people really have struggled and they've suffered health issues and
right.
just, I mean, my own testimony. I was raised in a Christian home, but I still chose,
Yeah.
you know, to have an abortion. And by the grace of God, that's how we met. We met through Deeper Still ministry, and there is so much mercy and grace in this. So basically, you know, no matter how boring your testimony is,
Right.
we are still born into sin.
Absolutely.
And we're still blood bought.
Right. Yeah.
And so I just want to highlight just this one thing is our righteousness, even though you're a good Christian girl, is filthy rags. And so we have to receive that gift of righteousness from God,
right,
so that we can live in this Christian walk with any power.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to, you know, say, you know, it's,
Yeah.
I've got one friend that I love her boring testimony.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
she's on fire for Jesus because she knows, you know, sin is crouching at our door at any moment. So we have to turn our face.
Yep. And I don't say it anymore. Because
good.
I really believed that. No, I don't believe that anymore. But I did believe that for a long time. I don't think anybody has boring testimony. But I get where people come from when they say that, in the sense of like, I don't know, I was just kind of raised and chose it as a kid or whatever. But I do think that at some point in your life, you are still having to, you're accountable, especially as an adult, to choose it for yourself, in the sense of, the Father has revealed himself to you, and you have a responsibility, right? As a Christian, you can't just say you're a Christian and nothing be changed about your life. You're probably not a Christian then. Hate to break it to whoever thinks that, but it's like, no,
just because you go to McDonald's doesn't mean you're a hamburger.
True. There you go. So I don't know. I think that, he really humbled me too, of like, oh, you think you have a boring testimony? I went through a lot of really hard stuff for a while, and I don't ever like feel like it's super important that I get into all these details, but what I experienced in that was the depravity of myself apart from Christ, that I think I thought I was pretty good. And like I said, my friend saying to me, like, you were once dead and now you're not. Like like with Scarlet Hope, we've been talking about that a lot with relational evangelism, of helping somebody see that they are nothing aside from Christ, without being like, hey, you're nothing. Like, you have to obviously frame that well, but I don't know.
It's just like bringing into, you know, have you ever lied? Have you ever stolen? Have you ever, you know, wanted something of your neighbors that you didn't have? I mean, here's the law, and if you've broken even just one of these, you know, and when you're ministering to the people that are, well, I'm a good person, I'll make it to heaven.
Right.
Oh, that just goes right through me, because then they're standing at the courts of heaven saying, these are all the things I've done. And God says, well, I never knew you.
I never knew you.
I never knew you.
I think that should be what we're terrified the most of.
Yes.
Is we can do all of these things for God, but do we know him?
Right.
And
does
I think
he
that
know us?
Yeah. Right.
Are we transparent with him?
Yeah.
You know, that it's I want to say humility, but it's this, when you jump on your daddy's lap, and people might not understand that, but our Father in heaven is the perfect Father.
Right.
You know, he wants to hold us. And so there's nothing hidden at that moment.
Yep.
And I've said this before in some of these podcasts, the greatest verse is, for me, was right before the fall of man. It says they were naked and unashamed.
Yeah.
And so when you come to the Lord in transparency, he makes you unashamed.
Right.
When you come to Jesus Christ, he takes your shame. He takes your guilt. He takes that horribleness of this world, you know, and bears that.
Right.
And so that's what I I just love that. So, getting into what drew you into this type of ministry, I'd really be, interested in maybe any background.
Sure. Well, a little bit more from my testimony of learning that I was not alive, right? That I, apart from Jesus, that that really, excuse me, I really had to figure out who I was. And in that journey, this was probably around age 24, 25-ish, like kind of post-college age, but you're still like not quite an adult and you're figuring it out. That mid-20s is actually a really hard age. And, your prefrontal cortex is like barely being developed. So I guess that makes sense. But I actually had just moved back to Reno from Santa Rosa, California. And I was refiguring out who I was. I moved back to be with my family and make better choices. And I had just been dabbling in a lot of things I needed to stop doing. And in that, experiencing who I was and who I didn't want to be. I was like terrified of continuing to be the person I was becoming. And so, praise the Lord, he told me to go home. And Reno's a scary place if you're battling addiction of any sort, relationship things, whatever.
Yeah, it
X,
can
Y,
be
and Z.
very dark.
The side of Reno I've seen now, too. I had no idea when I was 24. So I'm just really thankful that God worked out a lot of stuff in me when I moved home pretty quickly, within probably about 6 months. And then I met my husband, and we knew each other in high school. So we reconnected, and that's a story for another day. But God used him as a catalyst as well for me to really I need to get back to who I actually am. And so through being with him and us figuring it out together and attending church together and finding community, he really healed my heart of it's no longer this doesn't define you. This might hurt you, but this does not define your life, and you can move forward. And I just had so much rejection and pain and fear in my life of just not doing anything for Jesus that that ultimately was like, okay, well, if I'm nothing without him, then what's even the point? And so then I really started to struggle with addiction for a little bit. And then it was thankfully very brief and situational. And as I worked through that, it really was God breaking down my pride of, you think that you're good. Oh, I would never do this, right? Like we have this judgment of other people when we meet people and we hear their stories sometimes. So it was really cool through all of that. And I'm so thankful I went through all of that actually I'm capable of anything. Yeah. We're all capable of sin. We're all capable, and we all fall short of the glory of God. So at the time, I think I had all this head knowledge, and it hadn't really changed my heart yet. That 18-inch journey everyone we'd like to talk about, And so anyway, so that I moved back to Reno, started trying to get my life back together, started seeing my husband, Eric, and falling in love while also being extremely cautious and extremely scared of everything because I didn't want to mess it up and hurt him, or be hurt.
Right,
but I also was like, I think that you're making my life better, and I think I'm more like Christ being around you, which that's what we should look for in a spouse.
Yes.
Which, by the grace of God, that's what happened. It was just that God pulled us closer to himself by using each other because we had so much of the similar stories and backgrounds and shame that we related and then ended up falling for each other, which was really cool. And I wasn't looking for it. We were just friends. And so that also was really cool, just of God's, not saying if you need to heal, God's going to give you a spouse, because if that's what you're doing, probably not. Yeah. But I wasn't looking for it and authentically, and God really met me there. And then, so fast forward a couple years, I actually worked with kids with autism and are on the spectrum. With ASD now, I think they call it actually autism spectrum disorder. But my sister has special needs, and so I'd been in that world a long time.
Oh, okay.
And I went to Bible college. I went to regular college. I kind of was on this journey. And but when I was 18 years old, I first learned about sex trafficking, and I didn't even know that was a thing. And then, young, naive, and it wasn't really talked about a whole lot. And I heard more about it overseas. This was 15 years ago. And I remember being really, my heart was hurting. So this was 18, 19, and 20. I was starting to learn. in Bible college, we were talking about it. And then when I moved away, it was just kind of like in the back of my mind because I focused on something else. I was part of a church plant, and then I was in college, and then I started going through my undoing, I should say. And so I didn't really, it was just kind of, it really was an undoing of a lot of religion.
Your book. That's the name of your book.
There's the name of my book, yeah.
The Undoing, or a chapter.
Yeah. I also love the John Piper quote, like, my feelings are not God. God is God. That would be another.
That's my favorite.
It's my favorite quote. I think for myself and my own journey of it's not
right now, especially in this climate that we're in, they're really saying, "Oh, well, do you feel like a boy or do you feel like a girl?" You know?
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying anything against the trans community, but you know, even our feelings are lying to us most of the time.
Yeah.
And we are a bunch of hormones. So, you know, the feelings are not who you are. Your identity is that you are the image of God.
Right. Yeah. They're every single person, Imago Dei, right?
Imago Dei.
And I think that they just don't know. They don't know that.
They just don't know.
And I think it's a longing
even
for
Christians, I was thinking about that too, just as you were speaking.
Yeah.
You know, until we know and are known by God, and he reveals the fact that our value and our worth is wrapped up in the price that was paid for us.
Right.
And the price that was paid for everyone in the world, not one person is excluded from this, is that he gave his only begotten Son to buy us back from evil.
Right.
To buy us back from death, to buy us back from blindness, to buy us back from the debt of sin that we owe.
Right. Right.
You know, he paid that debt in full.
Right. Right.
So anyways, go ahead. I just wanted to.
No, I love that. It's so true. And I think, we're all on a journey and trying to figure out who we are, especially when we're really young. And we can either be very, very deceived and follow that path, or we can follow what God actually has to say about us. And I do think he gives every single person an opportunity to know him. And so, anyways, fast forward to 2019. Yeah, 2019. I worked for an anti-trafficking organization called Awaken, and I applied for a position. I don't even remember what the position was, but it wasn't what I ended up doing. Just because they got to know me through the interviews, and it was like, oh, we actually want you to work with teenagers, and I was like, okay. And again, my heart had been broken for this, 7-8 years before, and then I had this opportunity to finally do something about it.
You knew you were called to it.
Yeah, there was something about it, and I loved working with people, working with people with ASD and being. I've just had a lot of different really cool people experiences, and so to go work with a population that I'd always been curious, I want to do something about that, but I don't know where would I even start? What would I even do with that? And I don't know anything about this, just I had a broken heart about it, and so. I'm definitely one of those bleeding heart people. And so, anyways, I got that job and it just changed my life. I just learned so much about that I had nothing to offer anything or anyone except my presence,
I feel that way about this podcast. Yeah. Honestly, it was like God told me to do it. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
And so that's a good place.
Right?
I think it's a good place to come from.
Is.
It's a humble place, and it's a place where you're teachable.
Yes, it's very true. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about poverty, and I learned a lot about generational sin, generational curses, whatever you want to, however you frame that. I call it generational sin, of just bondage being passed down, and just the enemy lies
being passed down.
Just the system and the lack of resources, but then some resources being all that people know. And I just learned so much about systemic poverty, really. It is a huge part of it.
Yeah, I was raised in poverty, and you start to believe that this is it. There's a ceiling there. And I mean, you're just going to stay there. And I think part of it for me was fear.
Yeah.
My dad was just, you can't do that. You might get hurt and that's what he was raised in. He was, but that was not true for all of his brothers and sisters. He just chose that lie to be his truth. And I think that's what you're saying in a way.
Yeah. Well, and I think if if that's all that you know, if that's all
Yes.
that like somebody who raises you knew, of course that's what they're going to teach you in, right?
Exactly.
I think that we have to
Absolutely.
break that down. And I do think the millennial generation, which I am one of them, has fought that back a little bit. It's not that my generation's the best generation. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses,
Oh,
right?
that's for
So,
sure.
and that's not what this podcast is about.
You can,
But I
you
am a
can
millennial and I will own
you
it.
can say anything you want to here.
That's funny. No, I don't even
Yeah.
believe that. I think they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. What I will say about millennials, though, is that I think we're trying to, at least like what I see in my own raising my 2 children and then friends raising children that were in that same generation is that we want to not just accept like, well, this is just how I was raised, so this is how I do it. It's like, no, actually. But part of that is because we have Google at our fingertips.
Sure.
Like my mom didn't have that when she was raising kids. So I'll like be like, hey, I want you to like, can you feed my kids this way? Like while I'm gone. And she's like, oh, sure. We didn't do that back then, but like, okay, you know, it's just updated information. Right. And I think that will continue on forever. We're going to do things differently. And I think there's like beautiful things I've learned being raised. And then there's things I want to do different from my parents, not because they did a bad job. I just have different information in a different world now. Right. And so, I think that kind of goes into that, right? Like if you don't know anything different, but what I learned through that was like helping people see that they have a choice.
Exactly.
Choice is so important. We say at Scarlet Hope a lot, her voice, her choice. That is, if we give people the ability and the freedom to see that they have a choice, that they actually can change their life. Wow. What's like, how freeing is that? And then I have the added bonus doing Scarlet Hope, which I'll get to in a minute, of that freedom only comes from Jesus. And then you get real freedom, right?
Yes.
Like there's freedom from bondage, freedom from being in captivity of something, and then there's freedom in Jesus. And so, it all goes together. So learning all of this, thinking I could like change the world and do something, and then realizing they actually changed me more than I probably changed any of them. It was just such an honor. And I still have a lot of those young ladies in my life who are adults now and becoming moms. And it's really beautiful.
What a blessing.
I have most of them, not all of them, but most of them still in my life from that 2.5 years I was there. And so, so that's kind of where I got my feet wet. And then God was like, cool, buckle up. And so I had a season of about 1.5 years that I worked some other jobs and got some other experiences doing some things. God just had moved me on. I thought I was moving. It was this whole thing. And he's like, no, actually, you're going to stay in Reno, and I want you to work at the university. So I worked at the university for a little while. And then he's like, okay, now I want you to work with unhoused veterans. I was like, okay, now I'm working with veterans. And I worked at a restaurant in the evening in between some jobs, and I like stayed home with my son. I only had one at the time. And it's just like, he just took me on quite the journey, let me tell you. And I was like, okay, God, like I know what my passion is. I know what I want to do, but I don't know what that's supposed to look like. And when we thought we were moving, I had researched all over the country, like different organizations or something I could do that was similar, because I'm like, I'm not done with that chapter yet, but I'm going to come back to it. And so, I was working with the homeless veteran population and still in the nonprofit realm. I was still doing case management. So I've had multiple jobs where I was a case manager was my title. And my old pastor from Carson City's Living Stones called me and was like, hey, Halie, Scarlet Hope's looking for a director, and I think that you would be great and you should call them. And I was like, no. I just got settled in this job. I'd only been there like 5 months. And I was like, I have a really great hybrid schedule. So I'm like with my son some of the time. And no, I'm not doing that. And like, I can't have my heart broken again, because it was already got it interrupted the previous time of working with this population. And I still wasn't over it. And I didn't understand what God was doing with it. And I was like, I was told to pause this. And if I don't know that it's time to push play again, and I can't have my heart broken again. And so that's basically what I said was no.
I've said no to God a couple of times.
Yeah.
And he turns my head.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't let you say no for very long.
No.
And so what I learned in that situation, too, was like, you just got to, and we know this, right? Never say never. Like, when I was like, oh, that's a director position. Oh, I have to fundraise. like there's a lot of parts of this job that I will be doing case management and outreach and community support and discipling. Like this is gonna be a much larger job than I was used to. I was like, I don't know about that. So I called the previous director and I was like, hey, this is who I am. My old pastor sent me your way. I just want to have a conversation, but I'm going to tell you all of the reasons why I'm not going to do this. And she
That's funny.
had the conversation with me anyways. It was like, I had nothing to lose. I was like, I'm not interviewing with you, but I just out of curiosity, tell me about it. Like I was curious. And I think we need to stay curious with the Lord. Like, okay, God, if I think that maybe you're calling me to something, can I just be curious? Like, let me do some research or like, tell me more about this, right? Because I think sometimes I jump into something and I was trying not to just jump into something. And so, but it was cool. I was like in this leadership class through my church where I had been taking all these different like personality and strength assessment type things, but ministry focused. And it had actually, one of them said something about doing something significant was what brings me life. And that I would be somebody who would be good at running a nonprofit. And I was like, I am not going to ever run a nonprofit. That's funny. Like when I took the assessment.
That's hysterical.
Meanwhile, several months later. So God was doing a lot of working in me leading up to this, you know? And so I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm figuring it out. It's been almost 3 years. But anyways, I was like, this poor woman that I called and I was just like, okay, well, I don't think I'm interested. And I was so guarded and so like, I don't know that I can do that. And tell me the differences between this. And what do you think about her voice, her choice, and choice in general? And do you use the word sex worker? Like I had so many questions because I don't use those words. That's not a job, in my opinion. And that's a hill I'll die on. So I just had a lot of questions about like how trauma informed they were and all of these things. By the end of it, I was like, can you send me the application?
Oh, that's funny.
And so I did. And I sent my resume and I was like, okay, I don't know what the heck I think I'm doing with all of this. And all that to say, met with the board. I knew in the moment God was like, they're going to give you this position and I want you to say yes. It was very clear to me. And I was like, okay, but I'm really scared. And he's like, okay, I can work with scared.
Oh,
like,
I love that.
Okay.
I love that.
And so I'm still scared and terrified all the time that I'm going to mess it up, you know, or that something's going to happen and Scarlet Hope closes in
What do
Reno.
they say? He doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called, you know?
I love that quote too, because it's helpful when you feel very disqualified for something.
Yeah, but just look at Moses and Joshua and you know, David. I mean,
It's true.
You know, and I was thinking about Esther today.
Yeah.
You know, for such a time as this.
Yeah.
And she was way out of place, right? Way out of place. We're gonna end this episode, and we're gonna continue into the next episode because we're gonna get into what Scarlet Hope really does and have more of a conversation. I just want to thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
And then we're going to continue on in part 2. Thank you for joining us here today at Life Speaks Podcast. And we hope you join us for episode 2 with Halie Meiners. Thank you for joining us today. If this is a series, we will be having another episode that you can look for. And we are so grateful that you are here with Life Speaks Podcast. Thank you again.